So I wanted to talk about the new Fnatic roster. They've obviously made several pickups in the offseason, which can be confusing, so I want to go over who has joined and who's actually going to be playing for them, and if these changes were even good. So the starting three were Boaster, Chronicle, and Alfier, with Liu, who has been out for about 6 months because of health issues, as well as Durkay parting ways to join Team Vitality. They initially got Sayonara to replace Leo, who was a 16-year-old kid who obviously can't compete in BCT, but this was just for off-season events. He wouldn't have a great performance all the way through the tournament, but I think it was still pretty cool that they gave him a chance to play. And I also think it's important to say I don't think that performance was super indicative of how good Sayonara really is. Then they got Kajak to replace Durkay, who I think is an incredible pickup, who also wouldn't have the best showing during these tournaments either, which I think is okay, they're finding their footing. But what I thought was interesting is that Alfier was actually playing primary duelist over Kajak, who came in to replace Durkay. Obviously in Ascension, Kajak primarily played duelist, but if you know anything about Alfier, he is specifically an incredible Raze player, and I'll later talk about what they should do in terms of roles during the main season, in my opinion. But the big pickup they just made was Crashies from NRG, which is just insane, and almost poetic, because I remember FNS saying that Boaster had the 4 best players in the world to protect him, right, with Durkay, Leo, Chronicle, and Alfier, which was true. And now he's picked up a player who's playing under FNS for over 4 years, especially with the way Crashies departed from FNS. I believe there were some internal disagreements about how the team should be run, which I think is fine. I think that Optic Corp probably ran their course, as that team did everything they could. I mean, 4 years together is just insane, especially with how long Valorant has been out. But I think there will be a great rivalry here. Like, was FNS's way of running the team the problem, or was it Victor and Crashies? Although there are multiple correct ways to play the game, I think people are going to always compare them. We already saw this when Energy brought back FNS. But I actually want to talk about if Crashies is even a good replacement for Leo. I think undoubtedly you cannot replace Leo, so I think the better question is Crashies even a good fit for Fnatic? I think it's similar to the Sentinel situation, how they got banged to replace Tens. They're just not the same sort of player at all, outside of their literal in-game role. I think Crashies is a great player, but the last 2 years have not been fully representative of that. So do I think they'll be worse with Crashies? I think this is most likely. I think they could be better than Fnatic was around the time Leo left, slightly before and after. We kind of saw this when they brought in Hero. It made things fresh, although Hero wasn't necessarily a better player than Leo. I think it was just kind of what the team needed, something fresh. And I think sometimes new players can keep teams from getting complacent. I actually think this is very similar what happened between Crashies and FNS. Both are good, but both needed a fresh environment. Not saying that Leo shouldn't return at all, but I think ultimately this is a good thing for this team. Now, are they making a prime Fnatic run? Probably not, but you never know. I think Crashies is a very methodical player. He's not necessarily a super mechanical player, at least on the level of Leo. And maybe this will relieve Boaster a little bit of being the sole caller. I think Crashies has a lot, at least methodically, to offer, but we'll just have to see. But next I want to talk about Durkay leaving and Kajak replacing him. I previously said really good things about Kajak. In Ascension, he was an incredible player, even having a 98% chance when you load into a round that he would get a kill, which is a pretty crazy stat. But we also saw Sayonara up there, who didn't have the best showing with Fnatic. So it's not like this stat can predict how well these players will do. I just thought it was cool. And there's obviously a huge jump in competition when going from tier 2 to tier 1. I think it's hard to say where this team will land due to the nature of the offseason just being that teams try things out, and Alfier on duelist is just one of those things. Although I hope it sticks, I think it might be super dependent on the map they're playing, and I actually think Alfier is the better duelist between him and Kajak, and I hope to see him on duelist more this year, even if that includes a double die with Kajak. I think Alfier is on that Durkay level of duelist or close to, and although it may be confusing to pick up a duelist player like Kajak and have him swap roles, I think it's actually pretty smart if you talk to them beforehand and they're willing to play other things. So if I had to give this team a ceiling of performance and a floor, their ceiling would be a top 2 in my opinion. I don't see this team being better than Carmine Corp and Team Heretics at any given time. Maybe one or the other, but not both. And their floor is a top 5 at their worst. I just don't think this is the type of team that flops. They're good, and Boaster's been able to stay a top caller for a long time, as well as this core in general has just been good for a long time. But will they be the best? I don't think so, but we'll just have to see. Please let me know what you think this team's floor and ceiling are, and if you agreed or disagreed with anything I said, and yeah.